Imagine waking up to a letter that declares you unfit to own your own home, just because your lawn dared to turn brown during a record heat wave. Now imagine the person behind it smirking, knowing she planned to use one patch of dry grass to take your property. Sounds unreal, right? That was my reality. And what she didn't know was that I had military-grade evidence waiting to detonate her entire scheme. My name is Daniel, retired Army engineer, and homeowner in a neighborhood run by the most power-drunk white HOA president you could imagine. Her name? Susan, though everyone called her the HOA Karen. She lived for control, hunted for violations like they were trophies, and believed she ruled our street like a queen patrolling her kingdom. It all started with a brutal summer. The city announced strict water restrictions. No lawn watering unless scheduled, and violations meant heavy fines. I complied. Everyone complied. Grass everywhere turned brown. It was temporary, harmless, and definitely not neglect. But Karen saw an opportunity. One afternoon, she strutted toward my property with her clipboard, sunglasses, and that smug grin that told you she already decided you were guilty. She pointed to the dry grass like she had discovered buried treasure. This property shows abandonment and neglect, she said. According to HOA bylaw section 19, abandoned lots are subject to seizure. I laughed at first. Surely she couldn't be serious, but Karen never joked. She delivered a formal notice the next morning. Remedy the abandonment, or surrender the property for HOA. Reclamation and resale. Her signature practically danced with excitement. She thought she caught me helpless. But what she didn't know was that I spent 2 decades in the military documenting environments, running evidence protocols, and preparing reports so airtight they could stand in federal court. I had already captured before and after drought photos, archived the city's water restriction announcements, and even had time-stamped drone footage proving my property was maintained and lived in daily. And to top it off, my security cameras caught her laughing about finally getting that stubborn veteran out. Karen just declared war on the wrong person. I wasn't just going to defend my home. I was going to expose her. And before you think maybe she misunderstood, let me be clear. Karen knew exactly what she was doing. She weaponized HOA power like a personal hammer, smashing anyone who didn't bow. Neighbors whispered about her vendettas. Some even moved away to escape her. I had seen intimidation overseas, but never thought I'd face another dictator in a suburban neighborhood. Little did she realize, though, I didn't scare easily. I didn't defend a nation just to get pushed out of my own yard by someone Drew. Karen expected me to panic. She expected me to fold. She expected another neighbor who would lower their head and beg. Instead, I smiled when I read her violation notice. She had no idea she just stepped into a battlefield she wasn't prepared for. The first thing I did was organize all my documentation. Time-stamped satellite weather data? Check. City water restriction bulletins? Printed and highlighted. Drone footage showing me mowing, trimming bushes, and maintaining the property? Ready. My service training taught me one thing. When someone weaponizes authority, the truth is your strongest ammunition. But Karen wasn't done. She doubled down. The next day, she paraded around the neighborhood telling residents she was finally reclaiming community standards. One neighbor, Mr. Riley, knocked on my door quietly that evening. He whispered like we were in enemy territory. "Daniel, look, I don't want trouble," he said, "but she's been bragging, says she'll make an example out of you." I thanked him, reassured him, and simply replied, "Let her try." That night, I reviewed my homeowner contract. HOAs have rules, sure, but they also have limits. A property can only be seized if abandoned with no resident activity and no attempt to maintain it. Problem for Karen was, I lived there, worked there, maintained the home, and had more proof than she'd ever imagined. Then she tried a new tactic: intimidation. Next morning, she marched up again, this time with 2 HOA board members trailing behind her like obedient guard dogs. She gave me a final inspection, loudly narrating every brown blade of grass, trying to humiliate me. "This is unacceptable for our community image," she declared. I calmly responded, "City-mandated drought response. Section 3 ordinance. You know that." She smirked and hissed, "We don't recognize excuses in this community." But here's where she slipped. She recorded herself, and she admitted, proudly on video, "We're taking his property. People like him need to learn." People like him. I paused. Not angry. Focused. Strategic. She didn't just overreach. She exposed bias, power abuse, and malicious intent. After she left, neighbors slowly approached me. Some shared their own stories. Fines for kids' bikes on porches. Threats over trash cans being visible for 10 minutes. Harassment about paint shades. Karen was a tyrant hiding behind bylaws. That night, I prepared my counterstrike. A formal complaint to the HOA board. a report to the city, legal notice drafts, and my military-grade evidence file. Labeled, organized, bulletproof. Karen thought she controlled the battlefield. She hadn't realized I had just begun assembling support, proof, and a plan to expose her entire regime. And once I launched it, there would be no retreat for her. Karen underestimated one thing about veterans. We don't engage without a strategy, and once we do, we don't stop until the mission is complete. I woke up the next morning ready. But before I could even step outside, there she was again, clipboard in hand, sunglasses, the same smug expression, like a villain in a movie who believed she already wrote the ending. She waved her paper like a royal decree. Final notice. Compliance has not been achieved. The board will vote to take possession this week. I didn't even look at it. Instead, I pulled out my phone and began recording. Karen, I said calmly, are you aware the city has drought restrictions in effect? She rolled her eyes. Irrelevant. The HOA supersedes personal excuses. Perfect. Another confession. Another nail. Just then, backup arrived. But not hers, mine. 3 neighbors, tired of her tyranny, walked over. Mr. Riley, Mrs. Porter, and a young couple who'd recently received notices for non-matching patio furniture. They stood beside me, silent but strong. Karen wasn't used to that sight. Unity. You're intimidating the board, she snapped. I smiled. No, we're standing on our property. Something you seem to think belongs to you. That's when she lost her composure. You people don't understand. I run this neighborhood, she barked. No more mask. No more fake professionalism. The real Karen stood exposed. I walked her step by step through my evidence. City drought mandate screenshot. HOA's own handbook showing abandonment criteria. Time-stamped maintenance logs. Drone footage. Security cam audio of her plotting to remove the stubborn veteran. Karen's face drained, then hardened, and she gave her final threat. Show up at that board meeting if you want, but you won't win. She turned sharply and stomped away, but I wasn't finished preparing. That afternoon, I delivered formal legal packets to the HOA office, certified. I filed a misconduct complaint to the City Housing Authority. Then I emailed every board member my evidence before Karen could spin the story. Evening came and I sat on my porch. Neighbors one by one joined me. Someone brought lemonade. Someone else brought cookies. It felt less like a neighborhood and more like a unit, a team. Mrs. Porter put her hand on my shoulder and whispered, "It's about time someone stood up to her." I nodded. Tomorrow isn't about me keeping grass. It's about all of us keeping peace. The board meeting was the next day. Karen expected domination. I planned demonstration. She wanted power. I brought truth. And truth, once released, doesn't go back in the box. Tomorrow, the battlefield shifts. The board meeting felt like walking into a courtroom and a battlefield. At the same time, neighbors filled every seat, whispering, watching. Some had been victims of Karen's power trips for years. Others came out of curiosity, eager to see how this showdown would play out. Karen sat at the head of the table. Posture straight, chin high, a smirk of premature victory stretched across her face. She thought she already won. She tapped her gavel. Board will now address the violation case of... I stood before she finished. Calm, composed, prepared. I'll be speaking for myself today, I said. She scoffed and motioned to the stack of papers she brought. Exaggerated. Theatrical. As you can see, this homeowner neglected lawn standards, abandoned routine upkeep, and created community decline. I pulled out one single binder and placed it on the table. Labeled, tabbed, military neat. Correction, I said. We experienced a drought, and the city issued water restriction protocols. I played the city announcement recording, then showed the printed ordinance. Karen's smirk twitched. Then came the footage. Drone shots of me mowing, trimming, sweeping, time-stamped. My security video followed, capturing her voice bragging about getting the stubborn veteran out. Gasps echoed. Karen shifted, suddenly less queen and more cornered animal. You misunderstood the bylaw, she snapped. Brown grass equals neglect. I opened the HOA handbook. Highlighted section. Abandonment, I read, is defined as lack of occupancy and lack of maintenance. I live here. I maintain my home. The city itself restricted watering. Silence. One board member looked at Karen with visible disbelief. Another whispered, "He's right." Then neighbors began speaking. One by one they stood. She fined me for my kid's scooter. She threatened us over patio chairs. She told me she'd ruin me if I complained. A quiet rebellion became a tidal wave. Karen's voice trembled for the first time. You all can't do this." The board president cleared his throat. Effective immediately, the violation is dismissed. And due to the concerning evidence of targeted harassment, an internal investigation into the HOA presidency will begin. Karen's face drained. Her power, Gone. Not slowly, but instantly, like a switch flipped. She slammed her folder shut and stormed out, muttering, "This isn't over." But it was. A week later, her resignation email circulated. Members voted in a new board. Reasonable people. The neighborhood relaxed. Kids played outside again. People waved more. Peace returned. As for my lawn, next rainfall, it turned green again. But by then, it didn't matter. Because sometimes battles aren't fought overseas. Sometimes they're fought in front yards, at meeting tables, in moments where you stand firm against bullies hiding behind rules. And when you defend your ground with truth, you don't just keep property, you reclaim dignity. Before you go, don't forget, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and give this video a like so more people can see stories like this. Your support keeps these justice stories coming.